He stood there, barefoot in the kitchen, holding his coffee mug like everything was normal, when he looked me in the eye and said, "There's something I need to tell you." I had just finished wiring $150,000 to clear his family's debt. No thank you. No remorse. Just one sentence. "I've been seeing someone else." But what he didn't know was, I already had a plan. And when I executed it, he realized too late that the real betrayal wasn't mine. It was his mother's. My name is Marissa Delgado. I'm 33, a financial analyst based in San Diego, and until a few months ago, I believed I had the kind of marriage most people envied. My husband, Javier, was charming, affectionate in public, and always quick to flash that "you're my everything" smile that made people swoon. We were together for 8 years, married for 6, and in all that time, I truly thought we were a team. We had plans. We talked about kids, real estate, opening a winery in Sonoma one day. But the truth is, none of that was real. I just didn't know it yet. What started as me doing one last favor for the man I loved, bailing out his family from a debt that could have ruined them, quickly turned into a spiral of betrayal I never saw coming. And when I finally learned how deep the lies ran, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I made a move so sharp, so surgical, it took his breath away. This isn't just a story about infidelity. It's about sacrifice, manipulation, and a revenge so elegant, even he had to admit, it was well-deserved. When I married Javier Delgado, I thought I was marrying into love, not liability. We were both young, wildly in love, and optimistic about the future. But behind his charming smile and tequila-smooth laugh was a complicated history, one I thought I understood. Javier's family had always been proud, traditional, and messy. His father died when he was 16, leaving behind a tangle of business debts and strained relationships. His mother, Estela, was the kind of woman who wore silk robes at breakfast and clutched pearls like they were rosary beads. She always smiled when I visited, but something behind her eyes told me I would never truly be one of them. Still, I tried. I went to family dinners, held his brother Luis's hand through 2 DUI hearings, lent his cousin $800 that I never got back, and helped his mom refinance the family's rundown bakery when the roof caved in. But nothing compared to the favor they asked of me that final time. It was exactly 18 weeks before everything shattered. Javier came home late one night, suit wrinkled, tie loosened, a half-finished voicemail playing in his pocket. "I need to talk to you," he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead like it would soften the blow. We sat down at the kitchen table. He took a deep breath and said the one thing I'd heard too many times in our marriage. "My mom's in trouble." Apparently, Estela had co-signed a high-interest loan with one of her sisters to fund a speculative property flip in Ensenada. The deal fell apart. The aunt disappeared. And now Estela owed $150,000, or risked losing the bakery and her home. I blinked at the number. "Javi, that's insane. Why didn't she come to us sooner?" "She was embarrassed," he said. "She thought she could fix it. But it's bad, Marissa. Really bad. They're threatening to garnish her wages. Even Luis's car is at risk. We're her only hope." I hesitated. I had savings, yes. A solid career. Good credit. A carefully built emergency fund that I had protected like a dragon hoards gold. But this wasn't my debt. And I wasn't the one who had signed that loan. Still, Javier looked desperate. "I'll pay you back," he said. "Every penny." I didn't ask for a timeline. I didn't draw up a contract. I just said the one thing I always said to him. "We're a team, right?" He nodded, kissed my hand, and I transferred the money. The transfer was official 2 days later. $150,000 for my account. Just like that. I had to liquidate a few investments and cash out a CD early, but I managed it. Javier's mother was relieved. Even thanked me over the phone, her voice cracking slightly. "I never wanted to drag you into this," she said. "But you're a blessing, Mija. Truly." I believed her. For about a week. Until I started noticing changes. Javier stopped coming home early. Said he was catching up on work. He changed his phone password. Said there'd been security breaches at the firm. And one night, He came home smelling like a perfume I didn't wear. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Maybe Estella's situation was weighing on him. Maybe he was just tired. But the truth always has a smell. And betrayal? It reeks. It wasn't one smoking gun. It was a pattern. I found an unfamiliar earring in the glove box of his car. A strange Lyft receipt in his email, downtown to a hotel. A charge on our joint card from a boutique lingerie store. In her size. Not mine. Still, I waited. I wanted to give him the opportunity to tell me the truth. Instead, he gave me something else. It was a Sunday morning. He'd made French toast, like he always did when he was trying to reset us. The scent of cinnamon lingered in the air. I sat across from him at our reclaimed oak dining table, watching him stir sugar into his coffee like he hadn't destroyed something sacred. He took a deep breath. There's something I need to tell you. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face still. I've been seeing someone else. He didn't cry, didn't flinch, didn't offer up her name or a timeline. Just, I've been seeing someone else. And I took a sip of my coffee. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't throw the plate at his face like some badly written movie scene. Because here's the thing. I already knew, and I was already 10 steps ahead. 2 weeks before his confession, I hired a PI. Not because I suspected infidelity, at first, but because something about the money didn't feel right. I had this ache in my chest that told me I'd been played. I wanted receipts, documentation, confirmation that Estella really was in debt, and that my money had gone where I'd been told. Instead, the PI returned with photos. Javier, hand in hand with a woman in red, exiting a luxury suite at the Andante, laughing, kissing, her head on his shoulder. And the kicker? One of the photos showed Estella and the woman having coffee together, like old friends. I nearly choked on my own spit when I saw it. I asked the PI to dig deeper, and what he found made my skin crawl. The woman's name was Sabrina Fuentes. Age, 28. Occupation, interior stylist. Known social circle, Javier Delgado, Estella Delgado, and several mutual friends from their old neighborhood in La Mesa. She wasn't some random fling. She was handpicked, introduced to Javier by Estella. And I, the good wife, had footed the bill for their little love triangle. I stared at him that morning, my face blank. You've been seeing someone else? I repeated. He nodded. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened. I almost laughed. It just happened, I echoed, twirling my spoon in my coffee. Like her lipstick on your collar? Like your mom knowing her name before I did. His face changed. He blinked. What do you mean? I stood, walked over to the drawer, pulled out the manila envelope, slid it across the table. Inside, printed photos, credit card records, copies of texts, and the PI's report. He flipped through it slowly, face pale, mouth slightly open. Marissa? No, I said. Don't speak. You made your bed. Now let me show you how soft the sheets really are. Because in the last week, while he was out playing house with a woman his mother handpicked, I had been assembling a plan. Cold, strategic, surgical. And by the time he finished that folder, he would realize this wasn't the end of our marriage. It was the beginning of his downfall. He didn't move. Javier just sat there, hunched over at our kitchen table, flipping through photo after photo, each one a dagger he'd sharpened himself. His brow furrowed, lips slightly parted, like he couldn't process what was happening. This is insane, he muttered, breaking the silence. You hired someone to follow me? I leaned against the counter, arms folded, heart pounding but face serene. No, Javier, you're insane. For thinking you could cheat, lie, and use me and I wouldn't find out. He opened his mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to Sabrina. Hell, you can even lie to your mother if you want. But don't lie to me. Not after I cleaned up your family's mess. He flinched at the word mess, because he knew exactly what I meant. For 2 days after that confrontation, Javier tried to play damage control. He came home early, cleaned the house, Tried to make me breakfast like we were some sitcom couple on the brink of reconciliation. I said nothing. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't storm out. I didn't even change the locks. Because I needed him to stay. Just long enough. While he scrambled to glue the shards of his fantasy back together, I was working behind the scenes. The first call I made was to my bank. I had handled the $150,000 transfer to his mother's business loan, using my personal account. But I had been smart. Every penny had been documented, logged, and wired under the clause of a loan. Not a gift. Not a marital expense. A loan. And I had the paperwork to prove it. Loan agreement?
Check.
Email thread confirming terms?
Check.
Digital record of Estella's acknowledgement? Big check. The second call I made was to my attorney, Rosa Valles. She had helped me with a property transaction 2 years earlier and was notorious for being merciless in court. I knew it, Rosa said after reading the PI report. I always got snake energy from that man. Think we can get the money back? She snorted. Honey, we're not just getting your money. We're getting your dignity, your house, and maybe even his mother's ugly garden statues, if we push hard enough. I liked her already. While Rosa assembled the case, I paid a visit to Estella, unannounced. She opened the door wearing a silk scarf and lip gloss, looking more like a telenovela villain than a panicked debtor. The fake smile dropped the moment she saw me. Marissa, what a surprise. Not really, I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. Her kitchen still smelled like cinnamon tea and lavender soap, deceptively warm. On the counter sat an envelope labeled Retainer, addressed to SF Designs. SF, Sabrina Fuentes. I pointed at it. Is that what I think it is? She didn't answer. Let me guess, I said, pacing slowly. You co-signed a fake loan, sent me into panic mode, took $150,000 of my money, and then used it to bankroll your new daughter-in-law's interior design business? Estella's jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. You never liked me. I wasn't docile enough. I didn't bow. I didn't say, "Si, Senora," every time you entered a room. She inhaled sharply. You're not one of us. No, I said, smiling coldly. I'm better. Then I leaned in. By the way, you'll be receiving a court summons in the next few days. Just a heads up. I expect full repayment with interest. Estella's face twisted. You wouldn't. Try me. I left her there, mouth open, pride bleeding into the tiles. Back home, Javier waited on the couch, watching soccer like nothing had changed. I walked in and dropped a manila envelope in his lap. What's this? Divorce papers, I said casually. Pre-filed. You've got 7 days to review and sign. I suggest you read it carefully. Rosa doesn't miss details. He flipped through it. His face paled as he read the terms. Full repayment of the $150,000. I keep the condo. I keep the car. No spousal support. Gag order clause barring him or his family from speaking publicly about the split. You're serious, he whispered. I tilted my head.
Deadly.
He stood up, trying to summon that old charm, the puppy-eyed sincerity he used to get his way. Marissa, wait. Don't we at least owe it to ourselves to try therapy? To talk.
You talked, I said.
To Sabrina. In hotel beds. With my money. I made a mistake.
No, Javi.
A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was strategy. You planned this.
You used me.
Your mother helped.
And now?
You pay. His lips trembled. I don't have that kind of money. I smiled. Well, then you better start designing a GoFundMe. I hear cheater trying to pay back his wife. Trends really well these days. He signed the papers 2 days later. Didn't even try to fight. Estella, on the other hand, she tried to file a motion claiming the loan had been a gift. Rosa buried her in paperwork so dense, it might as well have been printed on concrete. In the end, she settled out of court, transferred $120,000 back to me, and agreed to pay the rest in installments under legal supervision. Sabrina vanished. Her website went dark. Her phone disconnected. Some say she moved back to Arizona. Good riddance. 3 months after our divorce finalized, I threw myself a party. Not a sad little divorce brunch. A real party. Champagne. Strings of gold lanterns. A live band. I invited every friend who ever watched me smile through his lies. Every woman who'd ever said me too when I told them what happened. And I made a toast. To loving smarter next time, I said. And to never apologizing for revenge that's well earned. The room erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "You're a damn legend." I just smiled. Because I didn't burn bridges. I drowned them. By the time my divorce was finalized, word had already spread like wildfire through Javier's extended family and old social circles. Some offered quiet support, text messages from his cousins like, "You deserved better," or "Tia Estella's always been toxic. Glad you're free." Others just disappeared. I didn't mind. I wasn't interested in alliances. But what I was interested in was the truth. Because something didn't sit right with me. Yes, I had uncovered the affair. Yes, I'd won the financial battle. But there were pieces of this puzzle that still didn't fit. Like, why now? Why had Javier confessed at that exact moment, right after I'd transferred the $150,000? He had been cheating for months. The PI confirmed that. His mother had been working with Sabrina behind the scenes even before that. So what triggered him to suddenly come clean? It didn't add up. So I started digging. I returned to the PI. His name was Daniel. Ex-military, sharp-eyed, and methodical. "I thought we were done," he said, raising an eyebrow as I stepped into his office. "We are," I replied. "But I need a second file. Something specific." He leaned forward. "On what?" "Not Javier," I said. "On Estella. I want everything. Her accounts, travel, property records, business activity. Something tells me this wasn't just about family debt or some affair." He smirked. "You think Mommy Dearest had a bigger game?" "I think Estella doesn't play unless she wins. And if she was willing to orchestrate a fake debt, con her daughter-in-law, and introduce her son to a woman with a business plan, it was never about love." He nodded. "Got it. Give me a few days." While Daniel did his digging, I focused on myself for the first time in years. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I joined a women's entrepreneur group, started advising smaller businesses on financial planning, and even got invited to speak at a financial empowerment seminar. People called it a comeback. But it wasn't. I wasn't coming back. I was evolving forward, without a hand around my throat or a lie in my bed. Then, 5 days later, Daniel called. "I found something," he said, voice low. "You might want to sit down." Estella, as it turned out, had never been in danger of losing the bakery. In fact, the bakery had been sold quietly a year ago. Cash deal. No listing. No public record of the buyer. But Daniel traced it back. To Sabrina's LLC. I felt the wind knocked out of me. "You're saying she sold the bakery to her?" "Technically, yes. Sabrina's company owns it now. But guess who co-signed the business paperwork?" He sent me the PDF. There it was. Javier Delgado. Signature at the bottom next to Sabrina's. I stared at it for a long time. They hadn't just planned the affair. They planned an exit strategy, using my money to fund it. I called Rosa immediately. "We need to reopen Discovery." "You already won," she said. "You got your money, the condo, everything." "No," I replied. "I didn't get the truth. And I want it on paper." She sighed but agreed. 3 days later, we filed a civil complaint for fraudulent misrepresentation of financial need. A legal firework designed to smoke out hidden assets, fake businesses, and co-conspirators. Estella responded with a smug statement through her attorney. My client acted in good faith. The loan was intended to save a family asset. The subsequent transfer was coincidental. Rosa laughed for 5 minutes straight, then subpoenaed the asset sale documents and demanded a full accounting of the funds post-transfer. When Estella refused, the judge imposed a temporary freeze on Sabrina's business account pending full disclosure. The bakery shut down. The website disappeared. And within a week, Javier showed up at my door. He looked like hell. Wrinkled shirt, dark circles. The same cologne he used to wear, only now it made my skin crawl. Marissa, please. We need to talk. I didn't move. You have 90 seconds. She left, he said. Sabrina. Packed up. Took everything. I think she's scared. Of being exposed? I said coolly.
Good.
She should be. He ran a hand through his hair. You don't get it. My mom, she told me she'd help us start a business. Said you didn't want kids. Said you'd never support my dreams. She played us both. I smirked. You expect sympathy? After what you did?
No.
I don't know what to do. I narrowed my eyes. Then I'll give you a clue. Start with a sworn statement. Turn on Estella. Tell the court exactly what happened. Or I swear, on every dollar I have, I'll bury you both. He looked stunned. You do that? I already am. I shut the door in his face. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. Or betrayal. Or sadness. I felt power. 2 weeks later, Rosa called. Javier gave us the statement, she said. He cracked. What did he say? He confirmed everything. Estella orchestrated the fake debt. Sabrina's company was a front. They used her money to fund a shell LLC and transfer the bakery into a new entity under her name. Their plan was to phase you out, fund themselves, and file for divorce in 6 months. I sat down slowly. So, it was all scripted. Almost perfectly, Rosa said. Except they underestimated one thing. What? She smiled. You. With Javier's testimony, the civil case became ironclad. Estella was charged with financial misrepresentation, Sabrina's business license was revoked, and the remaining payments on the original loan were increased by court order, plus penalties and emotional distress compensation. I received an additional $85,000. But the money didn't matter anymore. It was the validation. Proof that I hadn't just been hurt. I'd been targeted. And I'd survived. 3 months later, I opened my own consulting agency for women escaping financial abuse. The tagline? You didn't lose everything. You just lost them. Now, let's rebuild you. Clients poured in. Word spread. Apparently, when you survive fire, other survivors find you in the smoke. As for Javier, last I heard, he moved back into Estella's guest house. Sabrina was gone. The bakery was empty. And karma? She was just getting started. There's a strange quiet that follows after revenge. It isn't loud or dramatic like the movies. It's a silence so full, it almost hums. And in that silence, you face the truth. You survived. But now, who are you without the war? The settlement was finalized. The judgments were paid. And I wasn't just whole, I was better. I didn't want to fix what had been broken. I wanted to build something entirely new. My consulting firm, Reclaim Financial, launched 3 months after I received my final restitution check. I used part of the $85,000 compensation to rent a small but modern office space in downtown San Diego. Exposed brick walls, tall windows, warm lighting. It didn't scream corporate power. It whispered quiet resilience. I didn't want to intimidate. I wanted women to breathe when they walked in. My first client came from an Instagram post. She was 41, a mother of 3, and had just discovered her husband had emptied their savings account and left for Mexico with a 22-year-old bartender. Her voice shook when she called. I feel like I failed. I told her what I'd come to believe. No one fails when they trust someone. The failure was theirs for betraying it.
She sobbed.
Then we got to work. Over the next few weeks, I built something I never had in my marriage, community. Dozens of women from different walks of life started showing up. Some were newly divorced. Some were on the verge. Some were still secretly hiding money in envelopes in the backs of kitchen drawers because they feared what would happen if they left. We sat together, drew up budgets, dissected joint accounts, opened credit files. I taught them how to read financial abuse like it was a language and how to rewrite their future in numbers that made sense. It wasn't just healing. It was revolution. One woman told me, this place feels like what home should have felt like. I cried that night. Not because I was sad, because she was right. And just as I started settling into this new rhythm, life threw me another surprise. Estella tried to contact me. First, it was through a letter. Elegant stationery. Cursive handwriting. No apology. Just 2 lines. I did what I thought was best for my son. You were never meant to be permanent. I read it once. Then burned it. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a blocked number. I usually ignored them. This time, I answered. Marissa, came the familiar voice. It's Estella. Please don't hang up. I said nothing. I know I wronged you, she said. I know it now. I lost everything. My home, the bakery, my friends, even Javier. He won't speak to me anymore. I raised an eyebrow. And that's my problem, how? I just wanted you to know.
I was wrong about you.
You're the strongest woman I've ever met. I couldn't help but laugh. Now you say that? After you stole from me, manipulated me, tried to erase me. She sniffled. I thought you were in the way. In the way of what? A fantasy where your son becomes successful off of someone else's sacrifice. Yes. The honesty stunned me, but I didn't let it sway me. Well, I hope it was worth it, I said, because you lost a daughter-in-law who would have taken care of you until your last breath. Silence. I'm sorry, Marissa, she whispered, but it was too late. I didn't need her apology, because I wasn't doing this for closure. I was doing it for freedom. Javier reached out again, not long after that. An email this time. I know I messed everything up. I think about you every day. I see what you're doing with your company. It's incredible. You're incredible. I just want to say thank you for everything you did,
For everything you taught me.
I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it. No response. No explanation. No lingering grace. Just gone. Because some apologies are too late to matter. And forgiveness? It's a gift I choose who to give it to.
And he didn't earn it.
6 months after opening Reclaim Financial, I hosted our first women's retreat in Joshua Tree. 25 women. 1 giant villa. Workshops.
Wine.
Healing. We sat around a fire pit the first night, and I told my story. Not the sanitized version. The raw one. I told them how I loved a man who used me. How I paid off his mother's debt. How I found out about the affair. How I fought.
Won.
Rebuilt. And how I never looked back. They didn't gasp or cry. They nodded. Because they knew. They had lived their own versions of it. At the end, one woman stood up and said, You didn't just survive, Marissa. You turned the ashes into armor. That phrase stuck with me. So much. I made it our new motto. Ashes into armor. Then came the offer. One of the largest women's financial platforms in the country reached out. They had heard about my company. Read my viral blog post about financial infidelity. Watched my TEDx talk titled, Love Doesn't Require Sacrifice, Manipulation Does. They wanted to partner. Fund a national initiative. Workshops. School curriculum. Global reach. You're not just a consultant, their rep told me. You're a movement. And I realized that's what Javier never understood. He thought breaking my heart would break me. But I wasn't glass. I was steel.
He tried to ruin me.
But he taught me everything I needed to know to become unstoppable. Success, for me, didn't look like revenge fantasies or a look what you missed montage. It looked like calm mornings. Like walking into my office with fresh coffee and hearing women laugh. Really laugh, not nervously or carefully, but with their whole bodies. It looked like bank accounts with positive balances. Credit scores climbing. Restraining orders cleared. Apartment keys exchanged for mortgage approvals. It looked like freedom. And I began to understand something no one had taught me growing up. Healing isn't soft. It's sharp, precise, unforgiving to the things that tried to bury you. And it's loud enough to echo when done right. The partnership with the National Women's Finance Platform took off faster than I imagined. We rolled out workshops in 6 cities. I flew to New York for press interviews. I even had a sit-down segment with a major podcast host who asked me, What would you say to your ex-husband now if you could? I didn't hesitate. Thank you. The host raised her brows. Really? I smiled.
Yes.
Because he showed me where I'd forgotten to place my boundaries. He showed me the gap between who I thought I was and who I actually am. And because of him, I became impossible to destroy. The episode went viral. My inbox flooded. Women,
Men.
teenagers, grandmothers, all of them saying, "That's what I needed to hear." Javier heard it too. I know because he sent me a message. Again. This time it wasn't a pity note. It was a photo, one I didn't recognize, of me, standing in front of the courthouse.
Candid.
Taken from a distance. I was holding my lawyer's briefcase, wearing my favorite blazer, looking out at something just off camera. On the back, he'd written, "You looked powerful that day." I finally understood. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because he wasn't the audience anymore. He was the footnote. Meanwhile, Estella filed for bankruptcy. The courts froze what little she had left. Sabrina never resurfaced. Word was, she'd moved to Texas under a different name. I didn't chase her. I didn't care. Because what they took from me, I had already reclaimed with interest. Every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to rewrite my identity, I turned it into a blueprint. And I shared that blueprint with thousands. I didn't burn bridges. I built networks. Then something unexpected happened. A woman came into my office with a folder tucked tightly under her arm. She looked nervous. Maybe 32, small frame, thick glasses, soft-spoken. "I've been following your story," she said. "And I think my sister is in trouble. Her boyfriend isolates her, controls the money." She used to laugh. Now she barely smiles. I saw something in her eyes, something that reminded me of me. The ache of helplessness, the fear of rocking the boat, the belief that love must mean sacrifice. So I leaned in and said, "Let's help her. Together." And we did. Over the next 4 months, we helped that woman's sister secure her own bank account, build an escape fund, gather proof of verbal abuse, and secure a job she could grow in. On the day she left him, she sent me a note. "I used to think people like you were rare. Now I know we're just women who stopped asking permission." That one sat on my desk longer than any award. By the end of the year, Reclaim Financial expanded into 8 cities. My TEDx talk crossed 5 million views. I was named one of the top 100 women redefining wealth by Powerhouse magazine. And still, every Friday, I returned to my little gallery office and taught a free workshop for first-time financial escapees. I called it Fire Drills, because every woman should know how to get out before the house burns down. One afternoon, I walked past the mirror in my studio. I stopped, looked at myself, not in that rushed, checking for flaws way. Not critically. I saw me, my shoulders,
My jawline.
the small scar on my chin I got falling off my bike in 3rd grade. And my eyes.
Clear. Fierce.
Unapologetic. That was the power I never had when I was married. Not because he took it. Because I hadn't realized I owned it. Until now. I took a photo of my reflection. Posted it on the company page with a caption. "Before they break you, they study you. Before they use you, they flatter you. Before they leave you, they drain you. But after? That's when you become untouchable." Hashtag ashes into armor, hashtag reclaim everything. It became our slogan, our movement, our call to arms. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who thought love meant silence, who gave more than she had, and who finally learned the most important truth. You can rebuild anything when the rubble belongs to you.